Mbote mingi. Hello and welcome to this video. Now today I'm doing a feature of Verkys Kemangwana Mateta, who passed on the 13th of October the year 2022. And so today really it's about appreciating what he did while he was alive. And so the song that I'm going to translate is called Mikolo Mileki Mingi. Now the song was actually composed by Pepite Fokiao, but I like what Verkys did in the song in terms of the saxophone in this song. It is one of those increasingly interesting segments, if you wish. And so I'll start straight away by talking about the life and times of Verkys Kemangwana, and then of course I'll come to translate this song Mikolo Mileki Mingi, because it was produced under his band Orchestre VV. Okay, so we go straight into it and say that Verkys, as was his common name, and I'll tell you why he was actually called Verkys, but his name is Georges Kemangwana Mateta. Georges Kemangwana Mateta. He was born in a place called Kisantu in the Democratic Republic of Congo on the 19th of May 1944. All right, and then, like I alluded, we lost him on the 13th of October 2022. Now when he passed on, he was 78 years old. So that means that he had been around for quite a while. Now Verkys was a Congolese recording artist, composer, and, like we say, songwriter, and much more importantly, he had a prowess like no other in the playing of saxophone. Now he could also play other instruments actually, including guitar. So we need to say that he was an all-rounder, that he could do a number of things as an artist. He was also a vocalist, we should add. Now Verkys was relatively well educated, going by the standards of those days. Verkys was very well educated because he came from a rich family, a family of a prosperous Congolese businessman. All right, and so Verkys, from a very tender age, mastered playing of a flute and clarinet. Okay, but then of course later on he switched to playing saxophone. Now he was of course a very staunch follower of Prophet Simo Kimbangu. So that means that in street language we normally say that he was a Kimbangist. Now, how did the name Verkys come about? How did he end up being called Verkys? So a story is told of Verkys seriously idolizing an American sax player who was called King Curtis. All right, so he was called King Curtis. But now the name Curtis was a problem for Kemangwana to pronounce. So he decided that Curtis is actually sounding very close to Verkys, and that's how he christened himself Verkys from his idol King Curtis, who was a very prominent saxophone player. Now, having been born in 1944, like I said earlier, in 1962, when the guy was just about 18 years, he joined a band in his local area called Los Cantina, all right? And then he moved from Los Cantina and joined Jamel Jazz Band. And then after that, he went to Congo Rock. Now, Congo Rock was actually the band that was owned by Paul Ebengo, commonly called De Wayon. And you'll remember that this De Wayon guy has really mentored so many people. He mentored so many people. I talked about Franco Lambulanzo Makedi in my other show. Of course, his younger brother as well, Jean Bokelo. And now we're also saying that Verkys Kemangwana Mateta also passed through Ebengo's hands. So he was with the De Wayon's band called Congo Rock. But then he made his move. Of course, I should say the prominent of the moves that he made was in 1963 when he joined OK Jazz. If you say OK Jazz, of course you'll know that you're talking about Franco Luambo Makedi's band. No, so as he was moving from Congo Rock and joining OK Jazz, he did so in the company of Gerard Kazembe, Christophe Jali, and Henriette Boranzima, not to forget Dele Pedro. Now, Verkys quickly settled in OK Jazz and played saxophone with very unique energy, very unique style. And because he had all along been admiring King Curtis, so he tried to copy what he was doing, but then he also gave it his own style. So therefore, his saxophone playing was extremely unique. Okay. So while at OK Jazz, then he had his own songs also. Actually, he also composed songs: Polo, Bolingo ya Boji, Ngai Marie, Nzoto, Beba. He also wrote the song Madame de la Maison, Madame of the House or Miss of the House. Of course, talking about a housewife trying to really go through tempting times. Okay, so Georges, as his name was, became the right-hand man of Franco Luambo Makedi, and Franco loved him because, like I said, of his energy and the way he played his saxophone, but also the sense of fashion that the boy had. Verkys was known to be a fashion icon, putting on sometimes very crazy, or should say wild clothes. So, like I said, he joined OK Jazz in 1963. And then in 1968, Franco Luambo Makedi went to Europe. I think it must have been to promote his band or something, but he left behind some of the band members. Now that is where trouble began, because Verkys Kemangwana took a part of OK Jazz, and especially Yulu Mabiala, and so they tried to do some, we call them zongzing, some songs outside of that band. Now that really annoyed Franco Luambo Luanzo Makebi. But let's just say that on the 5th of April, the same year, 1968, Verkys left OK Jazz and launched his own band by the name Orchestre VV. Now this group had, those young up-and-coming musicians, very exciting, young and fresh talent, including Matadidi Mario Mabele. There was Marcel Jescain Loco. Then there was Bongat Sinatra Shekabu. This, of course, later went on to form Le Trio Majesty that also did extremely well. Now, other artists included Bovik Bondo, who was a vocalist. There was Ramazan Nkalu Lwaka. If you remember that song, Ndona, that voice that you hear was actually Ramazan Nkalu Lwaka. So, like I said, there was Marcel Loco Masingo Jescain. The other name, Sinatra Bonga Shekabu. Common name is Saxakul and Mario Matadidi. Now, Verkys started recording his music with a slight difference from how music was being done at OK Jazz. At OK Jazz, the emphasis was on the guitar. Well, of course, saxophone also played a role, but a lot of emphasis went on to the guitar, especially the 7 part where after they had done all the singing, then Franco and the other guitarists will now take charge. So Verkys tweaked that style a little bit. He stripped down guitar solo and instead increased the space of saxophone in the 7 part. So that's why many of the songs that were done by Orchestre VV have very long and memorable saxophone parts than even solo guitar. Actually, sometimes it's not even easy to remember if there is really a lead or solo guitar being played, because saxophones took center stage. So actually the saxophone became the solo or the lead instrument in the 7 parts. Now, so let's just say this, that even as he was starting the band, I've named some artists, but they also need to include Danilo. Now Danilo was a solo guitarist. Jim was a bass guitarist. Maproko and Verkys Kemangono Matita himself, they were the guys in the sax department. Now he did an invention really, because Kiri Kiri was a style that had been touted and established by Dr. Nico. So Verkys took that and then of course invented it a little bit to form a style that was called curvature. So curvature is actually what laid the foundation for the modern day soukous. Now his first hits as a solo artist included Mfumbwa and Bangkoko Baboy. He also gave Sakul the chance to do Fifi Solange. Now these songs did very well. Now in 1972, Verkys recruited Pepe Kale and Niboma. But these boys were actually at Bella Bella, so he brought them and asked them to sing the songs Sola and Mbuta, Sola, Mbuta and Kamale. Now these songs did very well, of course, and the Lipua band, Orchestre Lipua. But then of course later on there was also Orchestre Kiam, which was actually named after Verkys. So other songs include Amba, Mombasa, Nikibu, and others that were of course then produced under Orchestre Le Kamale. Now, something that we should say quickly here is that Verkys had the wherewithal. He had the money because of his background, so he had a recording studio. So with that came his ability to influence, to start bands and bands and bands under his stable. But I'll be talking about that in just a while. Now, in 1973, there was that song Donna. Wow, that song was very well received. Verkys was on saxophone, Roxy Shampaka was on solo guitar, Pierre Monongi Mopia did the rhythm guitar, Jim, as always, was the guy on bass, and there were a number of vocalists, Ramazani Nkalu Luaka, Two Sevonejos, a few Pepito, Fukiao, Then there was Pascal Mangwana. Now Pascal Mangwana is the younger brother to the legendary Sam Mangwana. Then there was also Jojo Ikomo. Now in 74, Verkys formed Edition Veve, which was of course a label that produced so many artists. In 76, he changed from Edition Veve to Zadis, which means Zaire Disc, where they issued the song Papi Baluti. Then there was Mwanamburu, that is another very popular song. You can actually see that video on my channel. The song was Mwanamburu was composed by Francis Bishumani, simply called Seli Bijou. Other people included Tino Mwinkwa, Joroy, I said Nejos Tusevu, Pepito Fukiao on vocals. There was Lambion on solo. So in other words, this band kept on, bringing more and more people on board. Now, Orchestre Veve recorded very many songs, and they were giving a freezer of tablet and of course Tipi OK Jazz of Franco a run for their money. The song Nakomitu Naka, which means I keep on asking myself, and you can also see how I have done this translation, although in Kiswahili, while in a radio show. You can actually go to my channel and find out what he said in Nakomi Tunaka. So that song did not sit very well with the Catholic Church. Remember, we have said that Kiamangwana himself was a Kimbangist. He used to follow Prophet Simon Kimbangu, and so the Catholic Church, to be specific, I was not very impressed with the messaging that came from that song. So once Orchestre Veve was up and running, Verkys began, venturing into business. So he began, signing, but of course his business was centered around music. So he signed a number of bands and did, many songs under his label. Le Grand Maquisard is a good example. Of course, even Bella Bella of the Soki brothers, Les Frères Soki, Empire Bakuba, Lipua. So all these bands were actually helped by Verkys Kiamangwana Mateta. He had one of the most modern studios. I should say he was the first indigenous Congolese to have such kind of a studio with the elaborate technology, and all these were housed in Veve Center. And let's also say that he had an ear for politics. He served as the president of the Union of Musicians in the Democratic Republic of Congo, commonly called UMUZA. He did this his first term in 1978, just after Franco, who had been at the helm before him. Now, because Verkys got a bit more involved in business, it should be said that it affected his own activity, his own active life as a musician, because he concentrated on production, promotion, and other businesses around music. So therefore, his band Orchestre Veve could not really hold. But of course, credit to him, he established so many bands, like I said, including even Langa Langa Stars, Victoria Eleison, King Kester Menea, Anti-Shock, and so on. Now in 1984, he opened a pressing plant for cassettes. But around that time, there was a lot of issues to do with piracy, and people did not honor other people's rights and so on. So he did not do very well. Now he continued doing music, being of course the studio owner, the producer. But it should be said that more and more artists found recording outside of Congo more viable because of better technology, and so that's why his grasp really on the musical scene began going down. So it should actually be said that the fact that he never remained very active in music himself meant that his fortunes were on a downturn. Okay, but of course we have to mention other people like Roger Izedi, and who helped him quite a lot with coming up with his studio. Bands like Graza Iko Wawa, like I said, Langa Langa Stars, Victoria Lezo, Afro International, Wenge Muzika, even Kofi Olomide at one point. They were all being produced by Verkys, Kiamangwana Mateta. Now in the 80s, Verkys tried to make a comeback. He tried to make a comeback again with a band that he now renamed Veve International. Now not Orchestra, but Veve International, with the vocalist Diato Lukoki. There was Michel Sax, there was Jean Poi. Remember that Jean Poi was another stalwart at TPOK Jazz. Others included Elba, Kuluma, Top A, that's how he likes calling himself. There was Serge Lemvo, Asi, Capella, Rochesi, and Lawi. But then again, of course, these were all not so well received as compared to his earlier times. Now in 88, Verkys was again elected as the president of Omusa. Then from 2008, he began having issues with his health, and so he's been on and off. Had an operation on his leg. Actually, I've seen a video of him in his twilight days before he passed on, and he was looking a little bit frail and in pain. But then he has a very rich discography. Verkys Kiamangwana Mateta, Cheka Sana, Yanini, Sisa Motema, Verkys Nakomi Paralize, Matinda Komono, Basala Hot, Mwanambogo, that I said was Celi Bijou, composition Vivita, Mikolo Milekemi, the song that is playing, although composed by Fukiau, but again it owed so much of its life to Verkys Kiamangwana Mateta, especially because of the sax that is actually extremely mad. As Bilobela, there was Bear, Angai Matinda, Marcelo Tozongana, among other songs. So even as burial arrangements are ongoing for the legend, it must be said that he is one of the few artists to have come from the Democratic Republic of Congo and to have done very, very, very well as an artist because of the very many things associated with him. The fact that he was a very good singer, songwriter, and saxophone player. He